Shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Those in his gospel broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. This is going into the tweet that Candace Owens had made regarding an attempt or an assassination plot on our life for exposing the Macrons and, being brigand. And I mean, overall, she just been a heavy whistleblower exposing the tenets of this devil, Esau, Edom. Now, what's so ironic about it all is the fact that Candace Owens is married to a small hat. So it's kind of hard to believe, whether the assassination attempt is coming from the French government or is it actually coming from her husband? Because, I mean, the thing is, she's married to a very powerful man. And we understand within the elites and the cabal, we understand that at times when you break the oath, they will kill you because you are exposing secrets, which I've always stated Candace Owens is nothing more but control opposition, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, now, why they may have a plot to assassinate her, me personally, I believe her husband may be behind an orchestrated hit because he's juiced in. And you may say, well, why is that? Well, because in these type of ordeals, it's usually the people that's close to you to take your ass out, to say the least. But nonetheless, she's been going in on Amalek. Her, Kim Iverson, fucking Myron Gaines, which are all controlled opposition. Okay, they all take their beck and call from the elite bankers, and the rest is history. But there's a couple of videos going around in circulation, and I remember a couple of months ago she put out a video that an attempt may be on her life, but I didn't end up watching the video. But I tried to go through her channel and I didn't find it. So if they're taking out their own people, how much more before they start coming after the many Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai? Okay, because I mean, she's not saying anything that's off. And of course, she's not really tying it to biblical prophecy, but she do know that the small hats in Israel are not the people. And she was hitting at that for some time, and I think that ruffled a lot of feathers. But this is prophetic, man, because the scripture said that their tongue should cleave upon their own heads, man. So, yeah, it's not looking good for her. But as for the men of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai in our stead, they're going to come after us too, because they're knocking off anybody that deems a threat to foil their new world order. At the end of the day, we ain't stopping shit. We just messengers. We just, shoot the messenger, right? We just telling you what it is according to the scriptures. But, this devil, he's caught, he's on a fence. He's teetering, and, he's getting ready to be put out of commission because he knows that he has a short time. Okay, so this is from Full Spectrum Survivor. I'm going to play a couple of minutes of this, and then I'm going to kind of go into this tweet and get a couple of pre-sales. But yeah, if Candace Owens, if they're getting ready to murder her, because, I mean, even prior to her flipping her stance during the time of Trump's first administration, you notice the type of time she was on. She was a gung-ho Trump supporter, but even prior to then, she was bashing jigmen, and you notice through particular stages of her career, she starts to switch up her stance on the world politics and geopolitics and, the economy and different religions and so forth. Now she's this whole rebellious gung-ho pilot to expose a new world order. They even called the bitch a conspiracy theorist. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, play a couple of minutes of this guy here, and we'll get a couple of presets. But yeah, man, they getting ready to knock off their own people. So if she turns up dead, because she's been covering this whole Charlie Kirk thing too for the last 2 months, 3 months. And, they're talking about closing a case and, the feds and everything. It's a big plot behind it, which we already knew Amalek was behind it. So no surprise there. But anyway, without further delay, here we go.
Donald Trump just gave Pete Hegseth, the Department of War, the go-ahead to make military moves off the coast of Venezuela. And if Maduro does not give everything in ownership over to the United States of America, including going back on recent military and industrial deals that Venezuela just signed with Russia, the United States of America has the go-ahead now to go to war. So we're going to see a big increase in military activity there. Let's watch what major news organizations have to say about it.
U.S. significantly increasing its military presence in the Caribbean, deploying bombers, warships, and Marines to target narco-terrorists. Lucas Tomlinson's live in Trinidad to explain. Hi, Lucas.
Good afternoon, Mike. And after this show of force of U.S. warships in the Caribbean, President Trump says he's open to speaking with Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, hoping to have that conversation soon.
I believe that we're going to see a complete takeover there.
Boo, it's Halloween. Boo, it's Halloween.
Are you getting the runaround from workers' comp after your work injury? You're not alone. A lot of injured workers.
Russia. This is what your grocery store will look like in war. This is going to be an American city. We are not untouchable here, folks. That's one of the biggest problems that I see, is that people inside of the prepper community believe that we will never have this type of destruction on the grounds of American soil. I'm here to tell you that that is 100% wrong. You're living through a very paramount time in our country right now, and that's a time where we shift the dynamics of power and safety. You know it because when you go out in the street, you're not safe like you were 10, 20 years ago. You understand that even social unrest can cause a disruption so deep that people who go out this morning will not be going home tonight. And that's just one of the things that we see. You're going to start to see major events across our country. This is Candace Owens, and I want to read it to you. This is shocking news. Candace Owen says, 2 days ago, she was contacted by a high-ranking employee of the French government. She says first she worked to determine the authenticity of the person's position and his or her proximity to the French couple. She says that she deemed the information that they gave her to be credible enough to share it publicly just in case something happens to her. In short, she says that this person claims that Macron, the French leadership, has executed and paid for her political smoking. She says you're reading that. She says that this person claims that Macron, the French leadership, has executed and paid for her political smoking. She says you're reading that correctly. The green light was given to a small team of mercenaries. She is told that there is one Israeli that is in the group and the plans are already in motion. The person gave concrete proof, she says.
Yeah, so basically they want to unalive this bitch because she's running a goddamn mouth now. That can be neither here nor there too, because we understand that Esau, he sets up distractions like this to kind of distract the masses. Same thing with CK, you know. But me personally, I believe Candace is a little too juiced in for it to go down that way. But with Esau, all bets are off, because only thing that's really protecting her is because she has a small hat husband, which is her handler. So if there was an assassination attempt, it will have to come from him. He had to give the green light on it, but who knows if this is really gonna go through with it? Because I mean, she's a very important piece to their setting up their new world order. She just controlled opposition. So I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think she said anything that was too. It's no different than what the other whistleblowers are saying, but she's controlled opposition. So basically, she's doing it based on they're pulling the strings. Okay, ain't like she went AWOL and say, woke up one morning and say, you know what, fuck you, I'm finna expose you goddamn devil. She didn't say that. They told her, say, look, bitch, this is what we gonna do. We gonna do this and that. We gonna put you through a humiliation ritual. We gonna assassinate your character, and behind that you gonna have the bag. You know, and if you don't comply, then you may just end up missing. You know, because she's ruffled a lot of feathers, man. You know, and I claim the little troll. I don't know. She ain't even all that cute, but it just something about the little, I don't know. She ain't even all that cute, but I still claim the bitch. Anyway, man, Salaki, I'll just make it fun. But this is the book Job 18. And I'm going to start at verses 5. It says, yea, the light of the wicked should be put out, and the spark of his fire should not shine. This is his new world order, okay? It says the light should be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle should be put out with him. It says the step of his strength should be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. His own counsels, his own people coming against him. You know? And this is what we're seeing. Hell, her, Kim Iverson. I think Whitney Webb. If anything, Whitney Webb is probably the one that's in most danger, because I don't think Whitney Webb is actually being handled by anybody as far as, I don't think she's controlled opposition. I believe she knows people that's in power, and she knows people that she gets sources from. But I think Whitney Webb, she may be her own investigative journalist, which she's probably being backed by a PR firm, of course. But I don't think she has no strong ties to the small hats. But then again, I could be wrong, because I have not done extensive research on Whitney Webb, but she brings out a lot of information. Okay, Whitney Webb, Candace Owens, Kyle Kalinske, Kim Iverson, you know, they all a good source. My man, the Jimmy Dore, I mean, he's okay. Dave Hodges, you know, all controlled opposition. Of course, you got Skull and Bone Jones, Alex Jones, you know, which he's been spewing the same rhetoric for 20 years, but nonetheless, they set these people up for that. Okay, but it says, for he is cast into a net by his own feet, and he walketh upon the snare, which is a trap. It says, the gin taken him by the heel, and the robber shall prevail against him. It says, the snare is laid for him in the ground, and the trap for him in the way. And that's all, you know, these Yahweh Shai has set stumbling blocks before this devil. And on top of that, you setting up control opposition. The spirit of Yahweh Shai is hopping on these people to expose the New World Order. And that's essentially what's happening. Okay, so let's go.
And they are well placed within the French government. Further to this point, she claims that the recent smoking in a political agenda inside the United States of America happened with training of the French Legion's 13th Brigade. It was a multi-country involvement. The journalist who is delivering information there live is also at risk. She says this is deadly serious. The head of the country wants these people gone. She asks that every person who ever sees this message to please share it. She doesn't know who in the American government can be trusted. This source claims that our leaders, that is Donald Trump, the CIA, the Department of War, Pete Hegseth, they are aware of this. She has more specific information, which is verifiable should they care to reach out. And then she thanks the brave official in France who let her know that this was happening, because there is a move by evil taking place. She ends it with, may God bless you. Truly, let all be revealed. Well, folks, there is definitely danger in getting the information out, because the people who thrive in the shadows do not want to see the light.
Same thing they did to the prophets, to Yahweh. They silenced us because we were speaking out against the system. So the same thing today. That's why it says, you filled Jerusalem with this man's doctrine, seeking to blame his blood upon us. Jake wasn't having it, because they was ultimately guilty, right along with the Romans, for the death of Yahweh, man. Matthew 23 goes into how Jake killed their own prophets because we were speaking truth. So if she does die, they're gonna make us some type of martyr, like this clown Charlie Kirk. Which, the hell with him, man. Fuck him, you know. All these goddamn people, the Lord ain't dealing with these people. He just put a spirit on them to expose what's happening, because that's the scriptures. It says, terror should make him afraid on every side and should drive him to his feet. Yeah, he's being terrified because, for the simple fact, the exposure, okay? They can't sweep their wickedness under the rug anymore. The exposure. Everybody knows that Amalek is the problem of the earth now. He's being called out. Before you call out Amalek, they just send the ADL to, you know, to have their way with you and to demonize you and lock you up, and you have hella lawsuits up against you, you know, and they'll drain you. But now people are like, fuck you. I don't give a damn about your ass or your goddamn ADL. I don't care. People are had it with Esau. And it says here, his strength should be hunger bitten, and destruction should be ready at his side, and it should devour the strength of his skin. Even the firstborn of death should devour his strength, and that's Yahweh Shai. Okay? So, going here, it says, Candace Owens recently tweeted that her life is in danger, alleging that the French authorities are attempting to assassinate her. one thing they got to get approval for from the American government to, unless you're creating espionage in a society, then I mean that's one thing, they can kill you, but to take out a citizen from a different country, I mean that's gonna be a kickback for real. So this is inside stuff. But it says on November 23rd, Owens posted on X, formerly Twitter, claiming she was warned by a high-ranking employee of the French government that President Emmanuel Macron and his wife, Brigitte Macron, had executed upon and paid for her assassination. Because when you go to her page, this baby girl here, she did a whole series on this becoming Brigitte bitch, which they speculate was a man, which, you know, I won't be surprised. But let's go here. She's been covering the CK thing for the longest. But when you go back, like, she be on it, man. When you go back a couple of months, damn, the CK thing really took place a little while ago. But you got Brigitte here. She's going into it. You have, she's went into this whole thing. Brigitte Macron's lawyer has the dark past. She's been exposing him. Brigitte sues me for defamation. You know, she was going into the whole Epstein shit. Brigitte Macron sends Italian police to Xavier Pussert. And it's all based on this whole Becoming Brigitte series she did. You know, because she was exposing that, yeah, it's this fucking man. And a bunch of other secrets that they've been harboring. So now they on her heels. But it says here, she further alleged that the French-Israeli hit squad had been deployed for the task. So basically, they're getting ready to take her out. Just like on some Jason Bourne shit. They're watching her, probably tapping her phones, probably following her. And when they get the drop on her, then they may take the shot. Depending on how, you know, legitimate it is. Which I'm not saying it's not, but, and I mean, if she's really tied to a small hat husband that's powerful, then it's safe to say that she's probably okay. Okay, this is just to get emotions and tensions aroused up, but I don't really think anything is going to happen to her. But then again, I could be wrong. But it says this claim is part of an ongoing dispute where Owens has repeatedly claimed without evidence that Brigitte Macron was born a man and that the couple is involved in a cult. The you know what? It says the Macrons are suing Owens for defamation over these allegations. But Owens has made previous claims regarding death threats and assassinations. Early in 2025, a man pleaded guilty to making death threats against a political commentator whose Owens later identified as herself. Also, she has also tweeted allegations surrounding the death of conservative commentator CK, claiming he was threatened before his death and that the plan to kill him was in motion as early as mid-July 2025. So basically, she's afraid. Okay, she think that they're going to come gunning for her, and they may. You know, in her mind, so they like, look, this bitch talk too goddamn much. You know, so yeah, it's not looking too good for them. But anyway, Psalm 64, and I'm going to start at verses 5. It says, they encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privately. They say, who shall see them? Yeah, because, you know, Esau does things behind a curtain. You know, he sets up think tanks and, you know, military, man. He sets up secret councils to do his bidding behind the curtain. You know, and in retrospect, you have these laws and you have these lobbyists and you have these particular deities that's in place to shape the way people think. You know, the think tanks, movie scripts, CIA, all that stuff plays a factor. But it says here, they search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of everyone, one of them is deep and the heart is deep. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly they should be wounded. And that arrow, first and foremost, is the truth. Okay, because they're being hurt by the truth. So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, and all that see them shall flee away. Yeah, and Candace Owen, she's part of their tabernacle because she was bred by the small hat. Okay, she's juiced in. You know, she's done her rituals and sacrifices or whatever it may have been to get her this star of morality, but she just is guilty. And it says, and all men should fear and should declare the work of Yahweh, for they shall wisely consider of his doings. And the righteous should be glad in Yahweh, and shall trust in him, and shall all the upright heart show glory. All right, so anyway, I wasn't going to be on this too long. There's a couple more precepts we can go into, but I think the point is being made. Giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bashim, Yahweh Shai, Bashim Makakwadash. Lord's will, you'll edify. To the next lesson. Shalom.